You're watching Better Business Bureau's Business at its Best, brought to you by Ataraxis. You've got employees, we've got solutions. Human resources, insurance, benefits, and payroll. Our business is your business. BBB's Business at its Best.
A good friend asked me this past week, describe 2012 in one word. Well, I gave him the word, then I asked, how would you describe 2013 in one word? Welcome to Business at its Best. I'm Dale Dixon with Better Business Bureau. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to help you turn that word for 2013 into success. How? Well, we've assembled the experts to show you how to set an effective strategy for the year and, most importantly, how to execute on that strategy so you can look back at 2013 as one of your best yet. We'll conquer the big question, what do you need to do to get ready for the sweeping changes coming your way in healthcare? And it boils down to the cold hard fact, what gets measured gets results. We'll show you how. A big thank you to the TV stations in Idaho making this show possible each week. We're airing on KTVB's very own 24/7 in Twin Falls and Boise, and also Local News 8's Now channel in East Idaho. Ataraxis makes this program possible each week. The company takes care of the day-to-day work of HR, benefits, and payroll so a business owner can focus on growing business. And as we have probably all heard by now, healthcare reform, for the most part, is law of the land and set to implement in 2014. Stephen Cilley, CEO of Ataraxis, is with us today. And Stephen, you spend a lot of time with your clients working through these types of issues, helping them be successful. And so as we look forward to 2013 and preparing for 2014, what are some of those things that the business needs to address to start complying with the law?
Right. Well, 2013, luckily, is more of a preparation year. There's not a lot that implements this year, but you have to do things to prepare. The first thing is everybody has to report health premiums on their W-4s, or their W-2s, excuse me, that are issued in 2014 for 2013. So you need to track it all in your software now.
Start tracking now
because you have to report it. Because if you don't track it in your software throughout the year, you're going to have to spend the end of the year calculating it all and putting it in the correct box on the W-2.
That piece of information you just gave could be a huge time saver for folks come the end of the year.
Right, and most payroll software has the capability now to track it. It's just you have to code everything correctly and make sure that it's in there for what the employer is contributing for the employee's portion of the premium and what the employee pays. So what the value of that premium is, it has to be reported on the W-2.
Okay, so that's very important to have in place.
If you don't track it now, you're going to have to do all the calculations at the end of the year.
Now, a big question for so many employers is there are some certain trigger points within the law depending on the number of employees that a company has. So the question is, well, do these laws apply to me based on the number of employees I have?
Right.
What are some of the questions that a business needs to be looking at as in regards to employee counts?
So the first big cut is at 50.
Okay.
So if you have 50 or more, then you have to supply insurance for your employees. But it's 50 or more. 50 or more full-time equivalents.
Okay.
And so healthcare reform changes what a full-time person is when it comes to benefits. It's 30 hours a week. So if somebody works 30 hours a week or more, they're now benefits eligible. It makes them a full-time employee.
Okay.
For as far as healthcare reform. If they're under that, you have to take all your part-time people, total their number of hours that they work, divide it by 120 for that month, and then that gives you a full-time equivalent. So if you have 30 full-time people and then 30 full-time equivalents, you are now have to comply with healthcare reform. It's not just
because that would push you over the 50 mark.
Over the 50, you have to total them all together. Now you don't have to supply it to those full-time equivalents, you only have to supply it to the full-time people who actually work more than 30, but you have to use those full-time equivalents in your calculations when it comes to whether you have to comply.
It's going to be a math whiz on top of all of this as well.
Right.
So you've got under 50 employees. You don't have to, and let's say you don't hit that threshold at all. You don't have to supply health insurance. What is the overall impact of the law for those small businesses?
Okay, so if you're not doing anything now and you don't want to do anything in the future, very little.
Okay.
Okay, if you supply insurance now, you're going to have some choices to make because you could let them all just go to the exchange once they're set up, or you could continue to supply the insurance. And with our clients and who I talk to, the business owner friends of mine, it's a strategic decision. It's not necessarily just an economic decision. Because if you just let your employees, if you've been giving them benefits and coverage for a long time, and you just now say, I'm not going to pay for anything, go to the exchange, well, what's that tell your employees? Are you giving up on them? Do you not care as much about them? So it's really a strategic decision about how you want to run your business. And if you've already had the cost now, the cost of the premium, while they will be increasing because this doesn't bring those down, you've still been doing it. So look at it that way. But you don't have any compliance penalties. You have things you have to do to comply because you offer insurance. There's some reporting issues and things like that, but there's not a lot of extra cost. And there are some tax benefits if you're under 25 people and under 50,000 in average income.
We could spend the entire half hour, I think,
we
on
probably
this very
could.
topic. We're out of time for now. Stephen Cilley, the company Ataraxis. Folks can find you
You can call me at 208-906-2636 or on the web at ataraxispeo.com.
All right, thank you so much, Stephen Cilley, Ataraxis. And coming up next, Ron Price at Price Associates is in to help you use 5 simple steps to start on the road to setting a solid strategy for 2013. You're going to hear a lot about that word in the coming 30 minutes. You're watching Business at its Best, presented by Ataraxis. Welcome back to Business at its Best. We're spending this half hour on strategy, and you know, business leaders have different ideas about developing strategy. Some think it is a critical part of success, while others say things just change way too fast and it's not worth the waste of time in developing a strategic plan. Ron Price from Price Associates has more than 30 years experience helping companies develop strategy with leaders across a broad spectrum of businesses here in the U.S. and abroad. Ron, thanks so much for being with us today.
Good to be with you.
Let's set the foundation and the definition for what we're talking about today. And so what do you consider strategy to be for those people who say either absolutely or I don't want it?
Well, in reality, every business has a strategy. Some of us work at formalizing it. For some of us, it's more reactive to what's happening in the environment around us. But probably one of the easiest ways for us to think about strategy in a practical way is that strategy is what we want to accomplish or where we want to go and why.
The why piece is important.
It's very important because that's the underlying motivator. And then what kind of a plan do we have, whether it's formal or informal or whether we reset it every day, what kind of a plan do we have for how we're going to get there?
So when we talk about what's coming up in the coming year, what are you recommending folks start to think about it and creating a strategy for 2013? And it's not too late.
It isn't too late. And you can start thinking about strategy any day that you wake up.
Exactly.
And there are 2 big components to strategy. One is, who are we? What is it that we're capable of doing as an organization? What are our strengths and what are our limitations? And the other part is, what is the world that we operate in? What is it that our customers want? What are the realities of the marketplace? What are the trends that are going to affect our business? It's really those 2 pieces and putting them together to decide how to develop your strategy.
And you're referencing Drucker's 5 for strategy.
Yes, Peter Drucker, who's a great business writer who's passed away, and he's not the only thought leader about strategy, but he always had these magic 5 questions that he said every organization has to come back to these 5 questions. The first is, what business are we in? And he would put in parenthesis, and what business should we be in? The second is, who are our customers? Or who should our customers be? The third is, what do our customers want from us? Or what may they want from us in the future? Fourth is, how are we doing? Are we giving them what they want? And fifth is, based on all that, what's our plan going to be?
So what's the most important part of all that for developing the strategy moving forward?
Well, I think the most important part is actually implementing a strategy, because you can have a great plan, and if it sits on the shelf, you get nowhere. So the implementation, the execution of it is by far the most important thing. Oftentimes, a strategy that's only 80% correct, if it's implemented well, will give you success, whereas the perfect strategy, poorly implemented, won't get you anything. And I think in today's world, when it comes to implementation of the strategy, you have to think about 2 words. One is deliberate. What is my deliberate plan that I determine in advance I'm trying to accomplish? And the other is the word emergent. What's changing in the world around me that's emerging, that's changing the dynamics, that's causing me to have to think about how do I tweak my plan in order to get the results that I'm looking for?
Because that right there keeps so many people from formally putting a strategic plan together.
Yeah, their excuse is things are changing too fast. And I think the faster things are changing, the more important it is that we have some fundamental principles or boundaries that help us to understand who we are and what we do and why we do it and who our customer is and how we're going to serve them effectively.
To keep moving in the right direction.
That's
and not
correct.
get sidetracked by it. Ron Price, you also have some resources available for folks when it comes to strategic thinking and planning.
If they go to our website, price-associates.com, we have some articles about strategy and strategic planning, and we have activities throughout the year where we help businesses and other organizations continue to develop their strategy.
That website, one more time for folks.
Price-associates.com.
All right, Ron Price, Price Associates, thank you so much for being with us today and getting us thinking in the right direction. And coming up next on Business at its Best, setting strategy. It's that daunting task in the face of the unknown. Dr. Ron Galloway from Northwest Nazarene University joins us with some insight on figuring out the future. You're watching Business at its Best, presented by Ataraxis. Welcome back to Business at its Best. We're spending this half hour showing you the importance of setting strategy for the new year and how to do it. One of the biggest barriers is knowing what to expect. The government is helping with so much unknown, nearly going over the fiscal cliff this week, healthcare, and a number of other things on the list. Dr. Ron Galloway of Northwest Nazarene University joins us to talk about all of this, and thank you so much, Dr. Galloway, for being with us. And there is just a tremendous amount of unknown out there. So how do you prepare not knowing what to expect?
Well, that's really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
To figure out what you're going to do, not knowing if there's anything that you can do. And so I think one of the best things to do is to keep informed, keep up to date with what's coming out. As we walked in here today, you handed me this American Taxpayer Relief Act of 2012. First thing off the shelf after averting supposedly going over the fiscal cliff last evening as we're taping this today. But the reality is that the fiscal cliff is still out there in many different forms and fashions. And so I think keeping up to date with the information that will be forthcoming and somehow deciphering from people that you can trust what is real and what isn't. There are going to be a lot of rumors out there about what's coming here and what's coming there or what's not going to happen. And so we need to begin to eliminate rumor so that we can kind of start saying, okay, these are the things I can trust on. These are the things that we can take going forward. And then keeping updated, because this whole year, it's my belief, we will keep changing. The environment will keep changing. The rules of the game will keep changing as we move through this year into 2014.
Which on one side makes it incredibly difficult to do business.
Right.
On the other side, if we don't have some strong-willed business people who are going to forge ahead, that's the only way you keep success in the forefront.
So you probably want to eliminate uncertainty to whatever degree you can.
Okay.
So if you have some things that are squishy in your environment that maybe are or maybe aren't making money for you, then eliminate those items or figure out if they are or aren't. Go ahead and make some decisions that will put you in the best position to be flexible as you move forward.
You're talking about taking control of those things that you can take control of.
Exactly. Instead of just sitting there saying, well, I probably should do something about that, but I really haven't had time to think about it. This year we're going to have to take the time to think about it. We talk in business about spending 2 hours a week by ourselves with no outside interferences, just thinking about strategy, a day a month and a week a year, where you go off and just be by yourself and start enhancing your own ability to figure out what's going out without all the distractions from outside. And this year is going to be one of the biggest.
Messages, the self, everything
else.
else.
Just get rid of all that. One of the biggest assignments that's difficult for my students is when I tell them you're going to do 2 hours with no externals anywhere and you're going to sit and think. Or just
They
relax.
look at you.
They look at me and they come back and they say it's one of the most difficult assignments I've given them, whether it be the master's program or the college program. And it isn't until they've gotten into the second hour, after they've sat there for an hour stewing on the fact that they're not doing anything, they're not listening to anything, there's no music being piped into their ears, they finally say, you know, this is kind of cool. And they start thinking about things. We're not used to being by ourselves, so we're going to have to strategize in that way.
Let's get back quickly, because you've got a great process when you approach how to pick out a business book.
So when you're going to go look for stuff, go into a Barnes & Noble or wherever you go to get your books. It could be at the Idaho Youth Ranch. But go to the table of contents and look at the table of contents and pick out things that you don't know about that you'd like to hear this author's perspective on. And if you have 2 ideas and the book costs you $25, that's $12.50 an idea. That's a lunch someplace. If you get 2 ideas out of a book, just read those 2 chapters. Then if you feel like reading something else, do it. I have a friend that
It's very inexpensive.
tears things out of the books and then files them. He even tears parts of the Bible out, which I don't agree with. But this is the kind of thing, and then get this information and store it. It's a very inexpensive way to get your good ideas.
But there's a good idea just about every business book.
Almost everywhere, or something that'll make you think.
Which is so important.
2
hours a week, 1 day a month, and 1 week a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's our strategy tip from this segment with Dr. Ron Galloway, NNU, with campuses in Nampa and Idaho Falls.
And Twin Falls.
Thank you so much for being with us today. And coming up next on the show, Greg Carlson of OnTrac Coaching is in to help us put the finishing touches on setting your strategy for a successful 2013. You're watching Business at its Best, presented by Ataraxis. Welcome back to Business at its Best. This is 30 minutes of television showing you ways Idaho companies are working to be better. Whether it's Rexburg, Jerome, or Caldwell, each company in Idaho is working hard to attract and keep customers, and many are using some new technology to do so, new ways of thinking. It's all about setting strategy today, and that can be done by developing a strategic plan that can be one of the most important exercises a company can embark on. Yet many companies fail miserably in this process. They may successfully complete the plan, but it's in the execution that things go wrong. And execution is the key to any plan. It's said that an A plan with B execution will outdo a B plan with A execution every time. Greg Carlson with OnTrac Coaching joins us. Greg, thanks so much for being with us today. So when you say it's all in the execution, what's keeping people from successfully implementing a plan?
Well, things that I've seen time and time again is, number one, they try to establish too many goals.
Too many goals?
Too many goals. What you need to do is identify the one or two most important things in your organization. Some people call them strategic objectives, some call them critical success factors, some call them wildly important goals. Harvard calls them big, hairy, audacious goals. But the reality is identify those main things that need to get done. So many times we set so many goals that absolutely nothing gets done.
Okay.
By setting too many things, by concentrating on one or two big goals and aligning the organization, things start to happen.
It's too confusing when you look at that big
Absolutely.
long list and you get
Absolutely.
lost trying to figure out where do I start. So if it's about fewer goals, what else could get in the way of
Poor
success?
communication. If the goals are not clearly communicated to every individual in the organization. Strategic planning is about deciding where you're going to go, but also about alignment of the organization aligned around the main thing. So if the goals are not communicated well, if they just are formed in the boardroom or formed in the office and only the management team know about them, they're not going to get implemented.
So they need to be clear and well communicated.
Well communicated.
And then there's a people component to this process as well.
You've got to get buy-in in order to get alignment. You've got to get the right people that are on the street telling you the information of what really needs to be done in the organization. The view from the tower is different than the view from the runway, but we have to understand what's going on out in and get the right people involved in the plan.
So right people involved throughout the process. And then what else should a business be doing to help in the execution piece of the plan?
There has to be measurements. You have to have measurements of leading and lagging indicators of how you are getting your plan done. And what I mean about leading and lagging indicators is let's say we're going to set a goal of lose 10 pounds this year. That's a lagging indicator. How many times we go to the gym is a leading indicator. So if we can set leading indicators and lagging indicators and measure every goal and every action item, it's going to help us be more successful with our plan.
Because as I've been thinking through 2013, what I want to be doing, that phrase that you often use keeps running through my head. What gets measured gets
done.
results.
That's
gets
right.
done.
And if you're not measuring it, you cannot manage it. And it must be measured. You must measure your progress.
All right. Greg Carlson, OnTrac Coaching. Folks want to find you online?
OnTracCoaching.com.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And Better Business Bureau has a number of resources to help people find the best companies in Idaho, and BBB helps companies sell ethically. Be sure and check us out online, bbb.org. Find us on Facebook. Just do a search for Snake River Region. Coming up next on Business at its Best, we take a look at the success that comes out of effective strategy. You're watching Business at its Best, presented by Ataraxis. Welcome back to Business at its Best. Better Business Bureau produces this weekly show in Idaho to help you shop wisely and companies sell ethically. Before you buy, be sure to check out a business's reputation at bbb.org. We're on TV in great Idaho towns all along the Snake River Plain, from Jackson Hole, Wyoming to Ontario, Oregon. And we spent this last half hour talking about the importance of a business setting strategy to find success in the coming year. Fitting for 2013, wouldn't you say? The question is, what's the result? Well, we sat down with Beehive Federal Credit Union in eastern Idaho for a look at what an effective strategy can do to a company's success.
Started out very small, in fact, basically out of a shoebox and then out of a faculty employee's drawer for a while. In the past 10 years or so especially, you can see a lot of consolidation of financial institutions, merging one financial institution with another, especially the small ones. Had we remained small and not been able to grow and succeed and increase our numbers of members and services and assets that we control, that we manage, we would probably have been one of those merger candidates and may not have been in business today. But we were able to grow, and that was an important part of our strategy, to become large enough to have the economies of scale necessary to compete in this world of very competitive financial institutions all over. Pretty soon we'll have person-to-person payments through mobile devices. There's a lot of technology that'll play a factor in the future of financial transactions. Lots of changes that'll take place, and all of that involves risk. Many years ago, there was a credit card processing company that lost a lot of data. We didn't know about it very early. As a result, we lost tens of thousands of dollars in fraudulent transactions because we bear the burden of risk there. We bear the responsibility to safeguard our members' accounts. And even though it wasn't our data breach, it was someone else's, we didn't know about it in time to close the accounts, reissue new cards, and protect the members from losing money. Last week, we had our 20,000th member join the credit union. A gentleman from St. Anthony joined, and that was kind of a milestone for us to see number 20,000.
And success can be yours as well with great strategy. A quick recap: be sure to stay up on what's going on. Don't bury your head in the sand, but be aware of your surroundings. Set a strategy and then follow through on execution. Have a great week. We'll see you back here next week for Business at its Best.